for checking out my quick video using the Unreal Engine's SGK, the survival game kit, and mixing it with the multiplayer combat editor system. Both of these are awesome assets on the Unreal store, and I'm just getting into the Unreal editor recently, trying out some of the projects, moving across from Unity, so still getting a hang of things. Anyway, I'm trying to integrate these two pieces together. As you can see, this is what I've come up with so far. It's a very much a piece things together and very haphazard approach to it, but as you can see, I've got the ability to switch teams, not running on the actual what appears to be the client though, but running on server side. Oh, excuse me, wrong one. And you can see here I can press the button there and we can switch teams. We can't see the other players there, and in doing so we're actually enabling ourselves to use the spells that we got, or the skills that we got, to affect the other player's health. This is annoying, and you can see there I've lost a little bit of health, but I can shoot back, and that's already happened there. So we've got that one. We've also got a secondary skill that we can use. I don't actually know if it affects any stats at the moment, but it's just good that I can get it working. So as you can see, that's pretty much what we can do here, and my movement speed you can't quite tell, but it's actually affected by MCE and the stats that we've put in there, which I'll showcase when I look at the blueprints. I'm just going to hit escape there and get out of that. So let's have a look at two of the blueprints that I've played around with at the moment. So the first one is the master character. This is from the SGK kit, so you can see here survival game kit, blueprints, characters, and master character. This is the event graph for it, but what I'll show you first is this one here. So we'll bring up the spring arm, we'll just minimise that. So this is all of our master thing here, and we come down here, I've added in these extra components. So these two will already be on it, the player inventory, player building, but then the BPC, combat manager, stat manager, skill manager and action manager, they are all from the MCE. So you add those ones in, and then of course we go to our class settings and we need to apply these interfaces. So we've got combat, stats, skill and action, and then the inventory ones are automatically on there from the SGK. Then we come into here, this is all the SGK stuff as it is per standard, but then down here is where I've added in some of the MCE components, starting off with the combat manager. So of course we bring up the combat manager and the mesh from there, and from that this is how we add the team color material. So when we're starting up, we're actually on initialization, we are calling it, we're assigning it a team. Now you can assign it to none, I don't know if that's any good to do. I've left it out so it just automatically goes to red. So red can be whatever your starting team is, it doesn't really matter. And then of course here, once that's initialized, once it's ready, it goes okay, cool, apply the effect to the mesh, which will change the team color. So team color here, material, yep. So we're calling on the manager, we're getting the target, which is the character, we're getting the mesh of that, which is obviously this one up here, and then of course we are setting the team color material, which is done by the internal stuff for it. Now this here we've got floating combat text and display hit feedback. I haven't actually got those functioning correctly yet. It keeps popping up with a warning and I haven't bothered looking into it, so I've just got those disabled at the moment. That's what we've got for the combat manager on there so far. Next we come down to the stat manager. So there's obviously a few things here and a big mess of stuff that we've got, but I'm just going to go through it and explain it. So I made a little section here for the stat setup. Of course we're calling the stat manager from our character, which is this one here. Then we're going to add the stats manually. We can always do this another way, but this is just an easy way to me to get it to try and affect some of the stats. So what I've figured I could affect on our survival characters from the SGK is the movement speed and the health. So assigning the stat for move speed, I've given it actual values inside here, and of course we can modify that at runtime, so you can pick up boosters that will make you walk faster, or you can gain levels that will make you, give you booster speed or whatever. We're calling it speed, obviously, I'm calling this one health. Same thing for the health, I've given it the values that I want, so instead of actually running a value off a booster or a level based thing, I'm just giving it a straight value. SGK normally starts with 100, but I'm putting in 500 for this. And you can see, so I've just added both of those stats there. It doesn't go to anything here, but it will, this is fine, this is just initializing, so we're actually going to create these stats as the initial thing, and then they get put onto our character. Of course we've got our stat manager here, then we're drawing lines across to getting the stats. So now what we're going to do is we want to get the health stat which we've created on initialization, then we're going to truncate that and put it into another value. Same with the movement speed. We'll go with the health first because it's the easiest one. So of course we'll truncate that to a value, and then we're going down here where we're feeding it to what's called the max health, and then I'm setting the on the initialization I'm setting the health of the player to the max health. But these ones here aren't coming from MCE, these are coming from SGK, and I'll show you back up here. So here we've got the player inventory component, and that comes from up here, which is the SGK component. And then of course we've got a bunch of targets jumped out here which are the movement speeds, but it all feeds through all the way down to here where we've got the health is one of the last things that gets set up. So that's how we feed that through there. So that's actually sending a stat here from MCE and feeding that into a value here that we then send to here to set the max health in the SGK and the health on SGK. And then we've got the other one we've got here are movement speeds. So what I'm doing is I'm taking that stat there, movement speed, and I've got a straight value there, so that's like the overall speed for the character, and then we're coming out here, we're pulling it out into different values, and the reason I'm doing that is because when we come across here in SGK, we've got different movement states. So we've got jogging, sprinting, crouching, aimed walking, walking aimed, because you want to be able to make a player walk at a speed that's different to the speed when they're aiming, and that's just the way it's set up in SGK, which is perfectly fine. Just means that I've got to do a little bit more outward stuff. I'm sure I can actually probably condense this down to one more optimized thing, but at the moment this was just the way I did it, as straightforward thinking. So of course we've got the movement speed, we then spread that out. I've got it here, so that value that's coming out from movement speed, 0.5, and then I've got 0.9, 0.6, 1, and then 1.4. So these are multipliers here that I'm basically dividing, so that speed in half. That one there, I'm getting 90% of the speed, 60% of the speed, 100%, and then 140% of that speed, and then I'm feeding it into the various states. So what I'm doing for the states is that, on the ready, we're going through this, we're going to be adding a number to the jogging speed for the movement speed. It doesn't tell me there what I'm pulling it out as, but you'll get it anyway. You get add to the value. We've got player inventory component, we're calling that, and then we're getting the movement speed e-character state, so enums to floats, and that's then feeding onto this, so we're adding to that. So I've just drawn all these out because these are the 5 different states that we've got that will actually require a movement speed. There are other states there, but they're not moving, they're idle states, so I'm not bothering to put them in there. But you can see here that I am getting that, then I'm feeding that number to that. So I'm basically adding the number of what the base is for movement speed, which is technically 0, and then I'm giving that 600 divided by 2 to our walking aimed state. And then 60% for walking without, for the jogging, which is effectively your walk. So that's how that's... crouched aimed walking is the 50% movement speed. So I've just basically picked these numbers out of nowhere, fed them all through here, and it does actually affect the movement speed for the character, because I've tried in different values and I've made it walk a lot slower and things like that. So this is actually communicating and altering the movement of the player via the movement speed from MCS feeding straight through. But as you can see, there's a lot of lines going, a lot of areas. What I would much rather do is, instead of having all of these as a different thing, I would rather just have a multiplier for all of them and just have a little thing that says, yep, this is the multiplier value for these different states, or just have the one value being fed into here and then each of these states having on itself its own multiplier, so that it knows what to do it by and just has one algorithm for it. But for now, that's still working fine. Now here we come down to our skill manager, and this is part of the thing we need to display the HUD for our skills overlay. So that's when we play the game, we've got the actual skills in a little selectable slots. So this here you can actually get straight from the tutorial video from MCE. So you just need to have a locally controlled condition on here from the skill manager. You pull it out, and then of course spawn skill overlay, and we're just using the example HUD that was included, and that seems to sit perfectly fine in our HUD. We've got player index 0 for when we spawn our player. That works fine. And then same thing down here, so on initialization we are now setting up the skills that the player is going to have. I've taken a generic projectile and a blocking skill, And then of course we've got the here, so we've had to feed a camera in. Now this is where it got a little bit tricky for me, because I was trying to figure out a way. As you can see, we've got two cameras. We've got a third-person camera and a first-person camera. The skill seems to work perfectly fine even when I'm in first person. It doesn't seem to have any issue, but I wasn't sure at first. So I was trying to figure out a way to get both cameras listed in this one joint here, and just toggle between them whenever they're toggled somewhere else. But that's a whole another level of stuff that I want to do, and I couldn't be bothered. I'll find that out another time. Wasn't a priority. So then we've got the mesh, we just defined that in there as well. And then of course we come across here, we call that skill manager again. So we've got the target, so it knows what we're doing. And then we just put in the skills that we want. We've got the slot at -1 because as in the MCE tutorial, -1 just puts it in whatever slot is next on the list. Otherwise you can name that. If you want this to be your Q slot or whatever, you put it in slot 0 and assign that one to Q. Anyway, that's how you do that one there. So that's the majority of the stats and how they're running at the moment. On this character I haven't got anything else, I don't believe, for MCE. It was literally just that, except for maybe damage. Where did I do damage? Over here. Yeah, survival. Yep, so I was looking at that. I was going to try and modify some of that, but I haven't at the moment. I do have it telling somewhere that it's got damage. Player inventory, survival. It mustn't be on here, then it must be somewhere else. I'll have to have a look for that and maybe add it to the video a little bit later, unless it's in my interface. Combat, take damage. Here we go. Alright, so this is one of the things that I've also done here. So let's have a look. Player inventory, there we go, cool. Alright, so what I've done here, so this is our take damage, and this is for the combat. So this is from using the BBC Combat Manager. This is one of the functions that it has for taking damage. So this is actually talking about the damage when we're using our spells and stuff like that, not using the built-in system for SGK. So you can see here we're running it through to our Combat Manager to say, yep, the function is receiving damage. We've got to have a target, which is coming from our Combat Manager. We've got the damage result, which comes in here. Here we're going to break it out, and we're going to get the amount of damage that's being done. We've also got the tags and hit results, also all the other extra little bits and pieces. We're not worrying about that just at the moment, just the damage for now. We're truncating that into another value that can then slot into our player inventory component, and this is a SGK component. So we're dragging that in, then we're applying that damage figure to the damage meter down here, so it takes that number and then applies it to the target, which is there, and then we're returning through there. And then I believe on death is the same. No, we haven't got it there. It must be in another section. I think it's just because, yeah, I'd have to have a look in here as to where it plays out the death for the player. I think it might even be on the survival character, which is the next one. But yeah, so we're basically feeding the damage value through to SGK via this. So that goes directly through there, and it's counted on both systems. But of course we don't have anything set up for MCE for when the character dies. We're just running it straight through SGK to handle the character death. So the next edits and that I have done have been on the survival character over here. Here's all the inputs that we've got on our character. I didn't have to apply anything on here because it's all inherited from the master. And we come across here and I've got how we use our skills. So this is cast skill 0. So I've just set it up to the Q key for now. When we press, we start the skill. This is all done in the MCE tutorial video for setting up skills. You can find out through that. So we're just calling the skill manager. We're going for the target in ID value 0. So this is obviously the first one that's going to be on the line. And then of course when we release it, we want it to stop casting the skill. Excuse me. So then it's just start and stop. That's quick and easy, and this is what's shooting my little fireballs out. And then of course I've set up a second one here. I just haven't commented it yet. So it's the exact same thing, except we're using the ID 1 and we're pressing the G key to do that. So they're just easy triggers that we've got. I found when I put it on the master one it wasn't working correctly, but the P one was working fine. I don't know why, but yeah, it's, on here I've put it onto the survival character to get it to work. The next thing we got here is you're right, I have moved this across because, that's right, I moved it across onto here because it wasn't working on the client, so I was trying to get it through that, but obviously I need to figure out how to replicate it through the the system, because this will be working on the server side, but apparently not on the other side. Anyway, get player character. So we're getting the player character or the controller. We're going, yep, it's locally controlled, no worries. So we press P. We're going through here to switch on E-team, and then of course we have the different teams that we've got in our enum, and we've got here, we're calling the combat manager on the character, and we're sending that through to the current team, so it knows what current team we have. And if it's red and we've hit P, then we need to set the team to blue, and of course that means that then if it's blue and we hit P, we need to change it to black, and we're just cycling through each of those until we get back up to red, and I'm leaving none blank because I don't want there to be no team on the character, because yeah, otherwise you'll end up not being able to change the mesh colour. And that's how we do that. So as you can see, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going everywhere. I'm still learning how to do blueprinting at the moment. It seems pretty cool, but like again, I don't know enough about it to really say, got to know exactly what I should do or how I can optimize this sort of stuff, where I should call and what I should call. But yeah, this is, to me, was just very straightforward, mostly based off the tutorial videos for MCE and SGK. But as you can see here, this is where I want to do damage. What I want to do is actually just replace SGK's damage overall, and just use the MCE one, and then of course feed on the death. Use the death to feed in that, you know, yeah, hey SGK, this character's died, so run the death function. But of course then I would have to replace the HUD for SGK to read from those values anyway, which I could probably do, just go into the HUD there and actually change them from calling the function for SGK to calling the function from MCE, because you can set up a HUD and MCE just the same. But yeah, ideally I do like the way the HUD's set out in this one, so I'd probably keep that and just feed the information through, but it's sort of, you're doubling up on the system, so I don't really want to do that. I want to replace one, and then I need to figure out a little bit more about how these skills actually work, because there's a bunch of them that weren't triggering, and I'm not too sure why, and then I need to make sure that I am setting them up properly for the control so that they will replicate across all clients and not just the server. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you've got any tips or any questions on that, let me know on in the Discord, and yeah, hopefully we can sort something out and get these two systems working side by side, because that will be super awesome. One of the things I wanted to point out with the while we're actually going for this, I suppose is probably the whole point. So as you can see here, I'm affecting the move speed via these stats, so I can do stuff like move speed, health. I've also got the leap working, which is the one where the character will leap forward, so it's like a jump attack, which is a cool skill that you can have. Like you can have a warrior that can do like a barbarian leap attack. But one of the things that it means is that we can actually control the physical character from the SGK using the MCE skills list. So movement speed, and that is one thing, you can get boosts to your speed, but it also opens up a lot of the other damaging stats towards enemies and other players, where you can actually cast a frozen spell at a player, and then we lock their player from being able to move, so you can have a stun effect or you can have a frozen effect, and you can really affect the the player controller in many different ways, which is a super cool system to add, and I think is yeah, really cool in the sense of a survival game, where you can actually, you know, do more than just throw damage at someone. You can actually affect the way they're able to control their character. I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming for with this system here, and adding it in is to add these special skills to the character's abilities, and give the player more options in the combat. So yeah, anyway, again, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll have a little bit more later on, and we'll be able to get a full integration going.